been thunder snow. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's back to school. I'm your host, Scott the Steamroller Steen, lead handicapper at winnersandwhiners.com. I'm joined as always by
Scott Reichel, senior handicapper over winnersandwhiners.com.
There you go. And together we get to do this once a week, kids. Every Friday, Scott and I get together, put our best plays out there on the college football card and let the chips fall where they may. And we got a special guest here. We're trying to break our streak, so we brought in a guest farmer. He's going to have our farm play for today because Scott and I have lost 3 straight. Scott, is that right?
I think we won one in the middle, but I don't remember. It hasn't been good.
No, it hasn't. The farm hasn't been good. It's Chris King, everybody. Welcome, Chris. What's up, buddy?
Good to see you guys. How's it going?
I'm good. Anytime there's thunder snow in America, I'm excited because I get to sing thunder snow.
And it's not in your backyard.
It's not in my backyard. No, NIMBY, baby, not in my backyard. Up there in Buffalo, shout out to anybody that is over there by Lake Erie in the northwest corner of New York. God bless you. I hope you stay safe.
Chris, AJ's. I think AJ's is up there still.
I think you're right. Chris, did you have to ever get up on your roof and shovel the snow off so the roof didn't collapse?
Oh yeah, I mean, in 2001, I was home for Christmas, and that's, like I said, when we got 7 feet of snow overnight, and so it happens. I mean, then the year before that too, in November, right around this time, there was another snowstorm when they got like 3 or 4 feet in like less than 24 hours.
Now I know we were all talking about it. We'd love to see snow games. Nothing more fun than watching them flail around in snow. But it's not going to happen. You guys okay with that?
As a fan, no, but I understand common sense.
Right.
Yeah. Right. From a safety perspective, it makes sense. From the fan perspective of wanting to see that game and seeing the one that we had 5 years ago when the Colts were there, which reminds me, you know whose fault all this snow is? Blame Jacoby Brissett, because when they had the snowstorm in 2017 and they had the snow game when Buffalo wore the color rush uniforms, the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts was Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, there you go. It's all about Jacoby Brissett coming in. Yeah, it's and people say, well, they could play in that. Well, maybe they could.
Can they get to the stadium?
That's the problem. You can't get the personnel to work the stadium. You can't get the vendors. You can't get fans. I mean, Chris, I know Buffalo shakes it off better than most of America does. But when you start talking in feet, when you're talking 4, 5, 6 feet of snow, you just can't keep up with that. You're certainly not going to be able to keep up with it on the side streets. And I know I was reading stuff that says they do a pretty good job on the main streets. But the problem is the snow goes like in front of people's driveways.
Yep.
Where you might be able to get to the roads and drive on them if you could get to the roads. So
yeah, and it's like they said, there's plows getting stuck on the road too. So even then, it's not doing any good. And it just reminds me, like I told Reichel last night on Twitter, it reminds me of the 94 divisional playoff game against the Raiders when you do the intro and Marv Albert's sitting there talking about how, what do you do when the temperatures are so cold and blah, blah, and all that. And he's like, in the opening, he goes just like this. He's like, welcome to Orchard Park, New York and Rich Stadium, where the game time temperature a balmy 0 degrees. It feels like 25 below, and it snowed in Buffalo 28 of the last 29 days.
Nice. Yeah, I just don't know why human beings put themselves through that. I'm sure Buffalo is a beautiful town. I didn't get out much. I have worked there. I didn't get out. I went, obviously I went to Anchor Bar, had to have the win.
I never get out, so that might make you feel better,
Yeah, you're like, what, 300?
You never get out of your own apartment building.
How far from Buffalo?
Yeah, it might be cold in New York, but it's warm in my room. So
how far is it to the city from Buffalo, Chris? 350?
About 420 or so, depending on, so it's about seven hours, give or take.
Let's check out Reichel, Mr. World Traveler. Scott, you ever been to Niagara Falls?
No, I have not.
You ever been to Canada?
No.
Okay.
Have you ever been to Rochester?
No.
Have you ever been to Syracuse?
I've been by the Catskills before. I've been by Binghamton and Albany, but I've never actually been to Rochester.
Have you been to Syracuse?
I was going to start with New Reichel, so.
Syracuse, no. I have not been to Syracuse.
So the furthest west that you've been is Albany?
In the state, maybe. I mean, I've been to California. Like,
Well, that's what I'm talking about. It's in the state, so
That's what I'm
you've been
saying. In the
basically
state,
straight. You've been straight up.
I had friends in Binghamton who I'd visit them on occasion, but for the most part, no. I had some family who has like a cabin in upstate New York, which I'd go to occasionally. But for the most part, yeah, that's kind of it. And I haven't gone there in a while.
Did you go up there to Binghamton for the municipal employees game?
No, unfortunately, I did not. After what happened in the past, I was afraid I was going to get beaten up.
Yeah,
The
I can see
municipal
that.
workers. Nice
Catch a
bowling
hanger.
alley over there, though.
You
but
catch
I
a
ended up-
hanger, you're screwed, buddy. That's what
I
I'm
was.
saying.
But either way, should
All
have played
right.
those Kings, Mike.
So here's the deal, kids. You and
That's
I,
a Rounders reference, by the way. If you didn't get that.
if you don't know that, you're probably, I don't know why you're watching this show. If you throw out a multiple Rounders reference and you guys are like, what are you talking about? You've probably stumbled on the wrong video. I'm just saying. Scott, last week we got to talk about it.
I technically won, but we both lost.
We were each 1-2, so that wasn't good. You lost on Baylor. I lost on Illinois. I did hit the Iowa State under. You hit Florida State, and then I lost on North Texas, and you lost on San Jose. So, and then our farm, Scott, missed by half a point
On a punt return touchdown right before the first half.
We had team total under 18.5 for Mississippi State. They land 19. So
once again, punt return with like 5 seconds left in the first half.
When you're running good, you're running good. So we're gonna go at it again this week. That takes our overall records, by the way. Scott, you're still got a 1-game lead, 19-14. I'm at 18-15. The farm drops to 4-6. I really think we were 4-3 at one point.
I think we were. It might have been.
Drop 3 straight.
I'm just curious how Rachel won when you were both 1-2.
We automatically do
it's like golf.
Tie goes to the winner.
He still has the honor.
Okay.
If you won the previous week, it rolls over.
He still has the honors.
You should understand that, Chris, because in order to actually be the man, you got to beat the man. And unfortunately, Steen did not beat the man. Instead, we just tied. So I kept the belt by default.
So
right.
Well, so you pulled a honky tonk man and just got yourself disqualified.
Pretty much.
All right, so we're gonna go at it again. Chris is going to throw in his face. We're going to give you 9 picks today plus the farm. That's, I don't know what kind of bargain, and we're giving you. Scott,
hey, look at that value.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, speaking of value, I know if you didn't watch our big video, it's not for everybody. Some people like just the straight sports. I get it. If you didn't get a chance to see it though, Chris and I are doing a special this week. All of our NFL and college picks, $25. $25. You can get either one of us for 15 or combine them, which is what I would do. $25. That way you got a ton of plays. I know Chris puts out volume. I put out volume. I'm probably going to have 3 or 4 college plays, probably have 3 or 4 NFL plays. So, and Monday night, of course. So you get all that, $25. Check it out. You're going to have to use the link in the other video. So go to Once Upon a Time in Las Vegas. Again, if you don't like the show, well, the hell with you. No, but if you don't like the show, it's fine. Just scroll down to the description. You'll find the link. They'll take you right there. It's the best bargain anywhere you're going to find. So check that out.
Yeah, plus that could include picks for today because I know I had a pick, at least one pick in college football for today. I don't know if you did or not.
I do. I have a college football pick for today as well. So great incentive if you hear this show Friday afternoon. If you're one of those early adapters, as they say in the tech world, jump on it because you're getting an extra couple bonus picks. So very good. And Chris, I know you've got some big news. You're going to be with us next week. We're going to hit it a little harder, but a lot of people have been asking. It's almost once a day in my comment section. Hey, where'd Chris go? And I'm assuming they're not talking about the artificial shortening, not Crisco, but where did Chris go? So, Chris, we know where you went, but you're coming back, right?
Yeah, unlike Aerosmith, it's not a permanent vacation. You know, I just took a hiatus. But yeah, we'll be back next Saturday, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern. We're going to start with the show doing just on Saturdays. We'll see how the response goes, and if it gets better, who knows? Maybe we'll be on longer or more often than that. But starting November 26th, we'll be on at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Winners and Winders Network.
So there you go. Make yourself a little turkey omelet on Saturday morning. There, you're going to have some leftover turkey. Pro tip: throw a little dressing in, put a little butter on that, fry it up, get a little crust on. Beautiful thing. So if Chris,
did you get your turkey yet, Scott?
My son's doing it. He's smoking it.
Is he
smoking the turkey this year?
I'd ask Rachel, but he doesn't cook.
No, I'm going out to dinner with my grandparents and my father.
Going to Florida?
No, going to Florida for New Year's and Christmas, actually. But
For
for
sure.
Thanksgiving this year, nope, just meeting up with my grandparents and my father.
So nobody cooks?
No, we're going to a restaurant.
I like how
I got all my cooking skills from my dad.
I like how you, being of the Jewish persuasion, still celebrate Christmas and New Year's, even though that's not a thing. You have a different New Year's and not really big fans of Christmas, but you still you got time to go to Florida. So.
I mean, if you want to compare Hanukkah to Christmas, then I guess you can argue with the gifts, but
Ooh, another pair of socks. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So here's the deal, guys. If Chris only stays on Saturday, it's your fault. It's your fault. There's not enough of you are watching. If people watch, if they comment, if they interact, you get good. What do they call it? Engagement, right? Yeah. Get good engagement. He'll expand. It's like me with a buffet. You put me in I'm going to expand. But if you give me salads and shit, no, I'm going to contract. Going to stay the same. So it's all up to you. Starting the 26th of November on the Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central.
8 a.m. Central.
8. What are you going? Yeah, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. Thank you very much.
6 a.m. Pacific for those of you that are still awake and or hungover from the night before.
Maths be hard. So, all right. So check that out. We'll have Chris on next week. We'll talk a little bit more about it. So let's get rocking and rolling, boys. Scott, do you have anything to say?
Losers walk.
Indeed we do. Here we go, kids. I'm going to start off there in a battle in the Pac-12. It is a huge line as Colorado goes up against Washington, and the spread is 30.5. I'm going to take the Huskies here, guys. This Buffs team has been horrific this season. They're horrible on both sides of the football. 1-9 straight up, just 2-8 against the number. Here's the funny thing about the Buffaloes. They have never been mistaken for a good football team. Every one of their games, they have been at least a 14-point dog. Again, they're still 2-8 against the spread. So if anything, they've been overvalued by Vegas. 3 times they've been underdogs of 4 touchdowns or more. 3 times they have failed to cover. USC gashed this Colorado defense for 538 last week, and I think they're going to see an even better quarterback and a better passing game this week with Michael Penix. Give me the Buffs to do what they do best, fail to cover.
I believe USC also did basically nothing in the entire first quarter of that game, and then the avalanche started, and USC scored 40-something points in the final 3 quarters.
Yes, that is another game where I'm sure my clients were sweating it out as they fucked around for almost an entire quarter. So yes.
Yeah, I know. I was concerned in the first quarter of that game because I had USC last week too.
Yep, that was the one where was that the one where it was 5-2, right?
There's a safety in there. Yeah, it was something.
It was 5-2 after the first quarter, and we could be in trouble here trying to cover, but they got there.
What was the number in the end?
I
forgot. They ended up covering. They faked
it was like 4,000 to 62.
Well, they faked an extra point up 30. The backup punter did a backflip. It was a lot of fun.
They took the lead. They took the cover, and then they put the second and third string defense in there. Colorado drove right down the field, beat the number, and then USC for some reason, they had all the backups in, so they wanted to get them good experience. And they just drove down the field like it was their regular offense, and including the trick play at the end that would have given us the push with the field goal instead. And then he gets the 15-yarder for doing a backflip.
Yeah, final was 55-17.
Yeah, and they were covering
34 and a half.
Yeah, I was going to say 35-34, I think.
Yeah, right in there. So,
either way, Colorado stinks. Washington,
but that one pushed it that last touchdown pushed it over the total because the total was 66, and they were at 65 after Shroud scored midway through the fourth.
Shout out to Washington, by the way, for beating Oregon last week.
Yeah, absolutely. As a road dog, absolutely impressive performance. Scott, your next game is your first game, rather, is going to be a game that I took a look at that was on my list. What do you got going, buddy?
So last week, the only win that I had was fading Syracuse, and once again, I'm going to fade the Syracuse vitamin C guys. I'm going to go with Wake Forest -9.5. Both teams have struggled lately, but at least Wake Forest has been competitive. They lost a heartbreaker to North Carolina. North Carolina is going to play in the conference title game. That's a good team. So I have no shame in backing Wake Forest in a losing streak when they actually looked competent against North Carolina. I can't say the same for Syracuse because this team, after a great start, has fallen off a cliff, banged into a couple rocks, and then probably fell off another cliff on the way down. Because Syracuse has lost each of its last 4 games. Each of the last 3 losses have been by at least 10 points. Syracuse has scored less than 10 points in each of its last 2 games. And in addition to being awful 2 weeks ago against Pitt, backup quarterback, they actually got Schrader back at home on senior night, and they had 5 first downs with 5 minutes to go in the game. In the first 55 minutes, they had 5 first downs, and they lost to Florida State by about 90. This team's terrible. Wake Forest, it is senior night, and I do think that Hartman might be his final home game. Maybe he leaves early. I know he's a junior. He might be a mid-round draft pick or so, but Wake Forest has a lot of weapons offensively. Syracuse just has nothing going for it at the moment. It's mostly 10. I found the 9.5 at -114. I'll take Wake Forest at home, who, even though they're struggling a bit in wins and losses, they are playing in significantly better form than Syracuse, and it's not even close.
My big concern with Wake Forest was simply the fact that I backed them against Louisville and watched them turn the ball over 8 times.
You weren't a fan of the 6 turnovers in 1 quarter?
No, and then I watched them lose to NC State. Fortunately, I backed North Carolina last week as an underdog, and so I was glad to see Wake Forest lose that one. But I've got to agree with you. Syracuse has been terrible.
I've reached the point where Syracuse is just an auto-fade team, so I'm going to keep fading them.
Yes, but at least they're not Colorado.
That is true.
Not Colorado bad. I'm just heartbroken. I'm just heartbroken that we can't capitalize on that snowstorm. Yeah. There are no games in that Lake Erie snow belt.
Yeah, they postponed the Akron Buffalo game, which made no sense because if you think about it, all the other MAC teams played on Tuesday and Wednesday. Why was Akron Buffalo scheduled for Saturday anyway?
That's the way they do it. They
always divide up like half and half.
Yeah, 1 or 2 games on Saturday. So, all right, Chris, what's your first pick? This is one I was actually going to make this play, and I forgot about it when I was doing my notes today. So obviously, I'm a fan of this one. What do you got, buddy?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the Big 12, and we're going to go down to Waco, where TCU, ranked number 4 in the country, is somehow only favored by 2 points over a Baylor team that just got waxed by Kansas State at home last week.
Yeah, I had Baylor in that game.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Baylor where they, forgot to play on both sides of the ball. They've struggled defensively the last couple weeks. They gave up 35 to Oklahoma. They gave up 31 to Kansas State in a game where, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Martinez start that game and then he got hurt, so they had to go back to Will Howard?
Correct. Yep.
I know your son was very happy about the fact that Kansas State won that game, Scott.
He's not a Martinez fan. It's like he's almost been watching him the last 5 years in Nebraska or whatever. He would rather see Will Howard in there running the offense. I don't know that I agree with him, but I don't know.
But, I mean, we saw TCU. They went on the road. They beat Texas last week as an underdog. I was surprised they were that much of an underdog against a Longhorns team that always finds ways to lose games when it matters. I'm going to go with TCU here. I don't think the line – I think this is an insult to TCU being only favored by 2. I get the games in Waco, but if you look – and Baylor has already lost – on the road or at home this season twice. They lost to Oklahoma State and they lost to Kansas State last week. I just don't get this team. Shapen is
he's mediocre.
Yeah, he's basically, Jerry Bohannon light when Bohannon was there. Of course, he went to South Florida and is done for the year there as well. But I have no faith in this Baylor team. Dave Aranda's defense has been up and down. We saw him go 43 to West Virginia, 36 to Oklahoma State. Like I said, 35 to Oklahoma last week. And this is a TCU team. They'll either run the ball down your throat or they'll just, find a way to beat you with Duggan, either running or throwing the ball.
Johnson's a ridiculous wide receiver for TCU. He's so damn good.
Yeah,
he was banged up last week and still had a fine game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, had a touchdown where in the fourth quarter where apparently nobody decided to cover him. It's like, what the hell are you thinking? This guy catches everything, and you let him run a post right by you to the middle of the field,
right?
And they're standing there looking at each other.
Yeah, Baylor's got a couple of bad losses. That's Oklahoma State and West Virginia losses. Those are bad. Those are bad losses. Losing to K-State. There's no shame in that. Losing by K-State by 28, only putting up 3.
They didn't score a touchdown.
That's a bad look.
Like that's embarrassing. I think that's another issue. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because it is Chris's pick, but Baylor, what are they playing for? They had a hypothetical shot if they won last week of maybe making it to the conference title game.
Right.
That's dead. So they're the defending conference champions from last year. They got no chance to make the conference title game this year. What are they playing for besides pride? Because they already clinched a bowl game.
What do you guys think the motivation is to get better bowl games? These teams that are 6-4 can run it out to 8-4, improve to third or fourth, down from fifth or sixth. Do you think that's a motivating factor for college games? We'd rather go here rather than somewhere else.
Maybe for some teams that are having like a program that is awful, like UConn would maybe want to get a better bowl game just because why not? But Baylor once again was in a New Year's Six bowl. They won the conference last year. They don't give a damn if they win 6 games or 8 games. They underachieved. I don't think it matters.
All right.
You?
Yeah, I think that's true because we saw last year where Florida didn't want to go and play UCF in the Gasparilla Bowl, mainly because they sucked and they got stomped. But
half the players opt out anyway. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but back to the point there. You look at TCU; they shut Texas's run game down. Texas ran the ball 22 times for 28 yards.
Yeah,
Bijan Robinson had 12 carries for 29 yards in that game.
I completely blew the cap on that game. I thought it was going to go the entire. I wasn't sure it would go over because the total was massive, but I really thought Texas would run them out of the building, and they didn't.
I think Sarkisian's an idiot. So that's
their only touchdown came on defense.
Yeah. Well, you can't blame Sarkisian for the fact that Bijan Robinson averages less than 2.5 yards a carry.
No, but you can argue that he didn't get his team fully ready to play. I think that's kind of
that's bullshit.
Okay, and Quinn Ewers was 17 of 39, and he only completed passes to 3 guys.
Yeah.
So I think TCU should win this one by at least 10 points.
I think it should be a touchdown favorite. I think 7 to 8 is probably right in line with where this game should be. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that play too. So, all right, I'm gonna go to the ACC for my second pick. The ACC won't let me be me. I'm gonna take the Azure Diablos plus 7.5 against the Pitt Panthers. Duke, they won't run crazy. I expect the Pitt defense to step up. Very good running defense, but I think the Duke team is solid enough on both sides of the ball to do enough. This Pitt offense has been inconsistent. Slovis, speaking of overrated quarterbacks, Slovis was overrated before it was cool when he was at USC. He still sucks. 59.5% completion percentage and 6 TDs, 6 interceptions. That's going to be a bad look. I think he makes at least one bad turnover. I think Duke keeps it close, at least within a touchdown. Give me the Blue Devils plus 7.5.
Yeah, don't mind it. You have to worry about a Bonaconda, but that's basically it, right?
Yep. And he's been a monster so far this season. I agree. But as long as Duke can keep him under control, and I just don't think they have a ton of options other than handing the ball off to him.
And Leonard's not that bad as a quarterback for Duke.
What's that?
Leonard's not a bad quarterback for Duke.
No, he's all right. He's acceptable. I think he's better.
Anaconda's been a monster except for the game where Reichel picked him to go over 100 yards and then he got hurt.
I'm so annoyed. The next game he had 6 touchdowns and 200-something yards. I'm still salty about it.
He was nice enough to turn me onto that play. I fucking loaded up too.
I couldn't say no. Georgia Tech was terrible, and then he got injured halfway through the game. It's just
and then Vincent Davis came in and kept fumbling.
Yeah, but
it's just fucking ridiculous.
Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So for my second pick, I'm actually going to go to a high-profile matchup in the Pac-12 between Utah and Oregon. A lot of line movement in this game, and I'm actually going to back it. I'm going to take the Utes. I'm sorry, did you say Ute? -2.
The 2 Utes?
Yeah, at -110 on Bet Online. A couple reasons why. First of all, to address the actual line movement, Utah opened up as a 2.5-point underdog. Now they are 2-point favorites. Big reason why, injury news. Bo Nix got banged up at the end of that Washington game. He's questionable. And Oregon might be without its starting center and its starting right guard. The coach isn't going to give any information away. A couple cryptic messages here and there in press conferences, but let's just say there's a chance that all 3 of them don't play, which is why the line has moved. Plus, Utah, I just think is the better team right now. Utah's won 4 straight. They've been really good ever since their early loss in conference play. Oregon was going to make a serious case for a New Year's Six bowl. maybe even a sneaky playoff shot, and then they lost to Washington last week, which I think just took the wind out of their sails, is mostly just fading Oregon, who might be with a compromised Bo Nix and a below a full-strength offensive line. Plus, if you want to go through last year's meetings, I know it's a different coaching staff, but Utah just dominated. Utah ran it down their throats. They won each meeting by 28-plus points. Utah has an identity. I'm not sure if Oregon does, and if Nix is below 100% against a team that they might be equal to in terms of talent, I think Utah wins. But it's a 4.5-point line move, and one team might be using a backup quarterback with basically no playing time all season long. Good enough for me. I'll trust Whittingham to get the job done.
Well, and we've talked about it before. While much like the three of us are checking the injury reports, reading Twitter, trying to decipher the tea leaves, there's people with real inside information. And when you see a line move like that, that generally speaks to the fact that somebody knows something more than questionable.
With favorite switching in addition to the line movement.
Correct. So I don't hate that play. I didn't mind Oregon in that spot, but if Nix is not healthy and you've got problems around the interior of that offensive line, yeah, I got to go to Utah to do the same thing they did last year. Like you said, they just dominated. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I think, Utah seems to have found themselves again. They had that stretch where Rising didn't play and they had their struggles. And then they beat USC. They've played good football of late. They trounced last week that I was watching part of that game and going, oh, yeah, what a surprise. It's Utah football. I can't trust Oregon. I didn't like Nix before when he was in Auburn. I know he's had
this year, but I was never a big fan at Auburn.
Yeah, I know he's put up some good numbers, but I mean, Oregon always finds ways to stub their toe when it matters the most, and that's what happened against Washington. Because Washington is, sure, you're looking there 8-2, but look at some of these games where they've let teams back in the game.
Lost to Arizona State too, with a backup quarterback halfway through the game.
True.
All right.
So, by the way, Utah beat Stanford last week.
That's right. That's what it was, because they were. It was 7-7 or something like that early, and then
they scored 35 unanswered. They won 42-7.
Yeah, they blew them out in the third quarter, and I said, well, after they put the backup quarterback in, and they still scored, I said, well, this game's over, and I turned it off.
Chris, I know you're staying in the same conference for your next pick. What you got going on, buddy?
Yeah, I'm going to go down to the Valley of the Sun and go down to Tempe, where Herm Edwards isn't there anymore. But you know what? Arizona State still plays terrible football. We're talking about a Sun Devils team that has lost at home to Eastern Michigan. Everybody knows they're a football power. Got blown out by Utah. Their two home wins. They beat Northern Arizona in the opener. I know Rachel and I talked about that game originally with the Lumberjacks.
I don't want to talk about that one. My read on that game was not great for the super duper long shot pick of the day. I think all the underdogs lost that day though, so there's actually no right answer, but it's a separate story.
That's true. I mean, they did beat Washington a few weeks ago, but this is a team that lost to Stanford.
Was it Washington the first game without Herm?
No, the first game without Herm was Utah.
That was Utah because I backed Utah in that game on the show.
I couldn't remember how many. So they just fired him 3 weeks in, huh?
Yeah, after they lost to Eastern Michigan, they were standing out by the end zone on the way out of the tunnel.
The AD showed up and said, "All right, get out of here." In the end zone.
Pack your shit.
But you look at the last few weeks for Arizona State, they beat Colorado, but they beat Colorado by 8. Mm-hmm. They gave 34 points to the Buffaloes. They gave up 50 to UCLA. They gave up 28 last week to Washington State in a game that wasn't as close as the final score indicated because they scored 2 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes. Oregon State, they're 7-3. Nobody's talked about the job Jonathan Smith has done at his alma mater. They're 4-3 in the conference. They've won 4 of their last 5 despite playing with a backup quarterback. Goldbranson's been pretty decent. Their one loss in that stretch was a 3-point loss at Washington, where they did cover the line.
Yep.
They're coming off of beating a Cal. They've beat Washington State already. They've beaten Colorado. Their 2 losses, besides the one to Washington, they lost to USC by 3 in a game where they nearly pulled it out in the dying seconds in Corvallis. And they got trucked by Utah, but pretty much everyone's been trucked by Utah this season.
Yep.
I think that Oregon State should have no problem dispatching Arizona State. Bourget is probable, but he left that game last week against the Cougars. I don't think it matters. Arizona State's just a bad football team. And I think Oregon State should trounce them.
Hopefully he has a better game than his brother did the other night.
True. At least he won't be able to blame the weather if he doesn't.
Yeah, that's a very good point. All right. Well, for my last pick, it's the last game on the card. It's the game of Saturday desperation that so many of us play to catch up. Well, this week I've got an angle on it, and it's going to be the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors against the UNLV. They're not the running rebels. They're only the running rebels in football. I mean, in basketball. But
wait, you're jumping on the game that I picked? Wow.
What's that?
You're jumping on the game I picked?
Did you pick this one too? Oh, yeah.
It's different. He has a different angle, though.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what Scott's angle is, but yes.
It says it on the screen there, buddy.
So it does.
He's on the under.
Yeah. I'm gonna play the under in this game. Both of these I'm basically saying that the terrible offenses are worse than the terrible defenses, because both of these teams are nothing but a stone cold disappointment. And actually, Hawaii surprisingly has done a good job against the line, as has UNLV. Both of them have been undervalued this season, and they are hard to watch. These are two teams that are very, very difficult to watch. But they've really this is a UNLV team that has topped 21 points just one time in their last 5 games, and that was a remarkable game they played against Fresno State. That they actually stepped up and kept that game within a touchdown. But this Hawaii offense should provide very little problem for a UNLV defense that has definitely struggled. But this will be by far the worst offense they face, and I think that's also true with Hawaii. I'll take the under here in a slugfest out on the Big Island.
I mean, Hawaii's offense is terrible, so they might single-handedly drag down the total. I know that one of us, the remaining handicappers, has a thought on the game. UNLV's offensive numbers, though, are kind of misleading because Brumfield missed about 3 weeks, and he's been so much better than all the other quarterbacks on the roster. But Hawaii's so bad offensively, I'm not sure if it's going to matter.
No.
But you mentioned Hawaii being an awful football team. I'm going to back an awful football team here, and it's something I don't do that often, which is taking a massive underdog plus the points. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with UMass plus 33.5. That is right. I'm backing a team that we have roasted for about 3 straight years on the show. I'm going to take them plus 33.5 at minus 106 on Bet Online as they take on Texas A&M.
Just for the record, it's only because we've been doing the show 3 years. They were roasting before that. We could have been roasting them for the last 10 fucking years.
Yeah, they're terrible. However, I don't think A&M should be laying 33.5 to anybody, because A&M, in order to actually cover 33.5, you have to score at least 34 points. The math kind of has to check out on that.
Favorite stat alert.
A&M has scored less than 32 points in every game this season, including a 31-point performance when healthy against Sam Houston State at home in the first game of the season. That's an FCS team. Scored 14 against App State at home in the other game. But A&M is a really bad team. They're probably the biggest underachievers in the entire country, and have officially been eliminated from bowl game contention after the loss.
Yeah, how do you only score 10 against Auburn?
The point is they got nothing to play for. They were underachieving all season long. Now they're officially not going to a bowl game. You had players with NIL deals smoking weed in the locker room. It's just a circus over there at A&M. But UMass is not a good team. However, they do a couple of things well that could potentially give A&M problems. UMass is averaging 158.2 rushing yards per game against FBS competition, which ranks tied for 58th in the nation. Not bad. The problem is A&M is one of the worst run defenses in the league. A&M is allowing 233.4 rushing yards per game against FBS competition, which is the second most in the league. And UMass defensively only allowing 367.6 total yards per game, which ranks 42nd in the country. I'm not picking UMass to win. I'm not an idiot. But the idea that A&M, who now is not motivated at all, they've used a bunch of different quarterbacks. They're all terrible. But I do think UMass might be able to actually score a touchdown or two in this game, maybe in garbage time, because they can run the ball and A&M can't stop the run. I just think A&M at this point cannot be laying 5 touchdowns to anyone. UMass isn't a good team, but they've actually looked better than in past years. A&M is just an auto fade at this point. Give me UMass plus 33.5. Give me a respectable 41-10 type loss.
I'm not a good team.
So you're expecting them to score 41 points.
Not quite. I'm saying I think that if UMass gets to 7, maybe even 3, they might cover this because there's no guarantee A&M scores 5 touchdowns.
You know what? They could stay at 0 and still win.
But UMass likes to run it. A&M can't stop it, and that's going to drain clock. And I'm kind of just hoping that their running back, who's actually decent, can find some openings and they can move the ball.
See, and that kind of dovetails with a great tip when you're looking at big numbers like that. If the team that's the underdog, or really either one of the teams, if they run the football a lot, that's potentially your friend, because not only is that huge number your friend, so is the clock. So if UMass can have a couple of 5 or 6 minute drives, even if they come up dry, they've drained time off the clock, and you obviously need a ton of time to score that many points more than your opponent. So, yeah, I'm okay with that.
It's also based on principle. Like, they're getting 33.5. The full game total is 47.5.
Right.
Like, what are we doing here? If UMass scores once, you're probably good.
Yeah, that's really accurate. If they get the double digits, you're locked.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
so I'll take my chance.
The only harbinger of doom there is Reichel said this same exact thing about New Mexico State against Minnesota when the line was like 35.
That was such
they got beat 38-0.
But that said, they need to score. They were in the red zone with 3 minutes to go, and they threw a pick on 3rd down. I just needed a field goal. They just threw a pick on 3rd down. That was so rough. But yeah, that did happen. But
damn points. All right, Chris, you're gonna copy off one of my plays.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna go with UNLV Hawaii as well, but I'm gonna take the running Rebels here to cover the line. Like you said, they hung tough against Fresno State last week. They got Brumfield back 2 weeks ago at quarterback. Aiden Robbins was back last week at running back and ran pretty well against Fresno State. Had 26 carries for 144 yards and a score. Brumfield added another 60 on the ground plus a score. And we're looking at a Hawaii defense that gives up 221.4 yards a game, 5.8 yards a carry, and they've given up 27 touchdowns on the ground.
I think you meant rushing yards, 220-something rushing yards per game.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Not
ideal, especially the way Robbins was running the ball earlier this season before he got hurt. And like I said, 144 against a Fresno State team that has been pretty good this season. You know, Robbins in his limited action, 850 yards on the ground, 9 touchdowns. Hawaii, not good. You're looking at their numbers, and the Rainbow Warriors, 118th in scoring offense at 19.3 points a game. If you thought that wasn't bad enough, well, they're 124th in scoring defense out of 131 teams. UNLV, Marcus Arroyo, his team's improved. They still have a shot at maybe getting to a bowl game. They're 4-6 right now, but after this one, I think they'll be 5-6.
It's somewhat realistic. They played Nevada in the last week. They could actually get to 6 wins. It could happen.
Oh yeah, well yeah, Nevada sucks.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're looking at a team that hasn't won more than 4 games since 2017. So if they get the win here, they'll have their best season since that 2017 team went 5-7. The last time UNLV above 500. 2013, they were 7-6. I think they'll have no problem taking care of a Hawaii team that's, can we say they're not very efficient offensively? Completing 52.6% of their passes.
Yeah, they're bad.
Only 8 passing touchdowns.
UNLV impressed me also against Fresno. I mean, I had Fresno to cover, but Brumfield looked good. Robbins looked good. And, you're looking at Hawaii. They can't stop a nosebleed. So UNLV's motivated. Shockingly, usually the motivation dies for them in the middle of October. But they're still playing for something. I don't know what Hawaii's playing for. They have 2 wins on the year.
All right, very good. One thing left to do, guys. Now, Scott's not going to wear his hat. I'm not going to wear mine. Are you going to wear your hat today?
I don't know what the hell we're doing. We're making it up as we go.
Well, let's change it up then. Okay, you put your hat on.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll do that. All right, guys.
Chris, you put your hat on.
It's Friday. It's once again time put on those overalls, climb aboard your John Deere, get out your keychain with that lucky rabbit's foot. Hey, give it an extra rub. We need it this week. Put the keys in the ignition, fire that bad boy up, because, ladies and gentlemen, you know it, you love it. It's America's favorite segment on any show, anywhere. Might be overselling it just a bit. It is time, once again, to bet the farm. All right, very good. Voila, there it is.
Right, Shell just looks like he's Steve Martin from the Three Amigos.
Very good. Yeah. All right. As we mentioned, we have a guest farmer this week. Chris, you gave us this play right from your neck of the woods. What do we got cooked up here for today, my friend?
Yeah, it's an ACC matchup, and we're going to go to Chapel Hill, where the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, who have surprisingly played competent football since Paul Johnson was fired, or sorry, Jeff Collins was fired. Paul Johnson, Jeff Collins, they both run the triple option. Who cares? They've gone 3-3 under Brent Key, but the problem is they don't have a quarterback. Jeff Sims done for the year. Zach Pyron done for the year. They're down to Zach Gibson, who's 25 of 51 passing this year for 224 yards with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. We're looking at a Georgia Tech team that, hasn't run the ball well. And they get to go face North Carolina, a team that's already clinched the Coastal Division. They're 6-0 in the ACC. They're going to face Clemson, of course, in the title game in 2 weeks. They're coming off that win last week against Wake Forest, where they rallied to win 36-34 as an outright underdog. It's going to be tough for Georgia Tech to try and keep up with a team that averages 341.6 yards a game through the air. Drake May has 34 touchdown passes against 3 interceptions. And if that wasn't enough for you, North Carolina, they can run the ball too. 164 yards a game, 4.5 yards a carry. They found the end zone 19 times on the ground. You look and can Georgia Tech cover Josh Downs? Probably not. Can they cover Antoine Green? Probably not. Can they cover anybody? Well, they might be able to cover the popcorn vendor in third row, but that's about it. I don't have any faith in Georgia Tech here. You look in the Yellow Jackets, they can force turnovers against some teams, but they're giving up 404 yards a game in total offense. They're 87th in scoring defense. They're just 125th in scoring offense at 17.1 points a game. And you're facing a North Carolina team that's 9th in the country when it comes to putting points on the board at 40.1. I think Mac Brown's team will get their 10th win of the season and keep the momentum going as they head into the rivalry game next week with NC State by winning this one going away. I'm going to take the Tar Heels minus the 21 points. And I think they're going to put up probably 40 again in this one as they win. I'm going to say 41-14.
All right, very good. We needed to have a little primer with Chris about how to match up your predictions with the bullet points that we had loaded already.
I set up a bunch of bullet points and you read off none of them. So I just did all the I just
right,
put on all the points
starts plugging them in randomly as Chris is going through shit. Here's one Chris won't talk about.
I thought you were going to at least mention that Georgia Tech got smacked by Miami and Florida State, and that just didn't come up either. I did my best.
That was the best. Welcome to Incongruous and Farmer. Very good. It's not necessarily well presented, but it certainly was a good pick. Chris laid out a lot of good points. They just didn't match what we had loaded up.
I did my best to keep it correlated, but there's only so much that I could do on the fly.
So that's it. UNC minus 21 on our Bet the Farm play with our guest capper, our guest farmer, Chris King. And Scott and I both like that pick. Obviously, we wouldn't sign off with our seal of approval. So just to recap this week's card, I've got Washington covering that big number, minus 30.5 against the horrible Colorado. I've got the Dukies plus 7.5 against Pitt. And I've got UNLV Hawaii under 55.5. I just think that's too big of a number for two teams I have no confidence in whatsoever.
Yep. And for me, I got Wake Forest minus 9.5 taking on Syracuse. I have Utah, the Utes minus 2 taking on Oregon, And I also have UMass, the Minutemen, plus 33.5 against Texas A&M.
Do all of your oh no, okay. I thought they all started with U. You got 2 U's and a W. All right, very good. Chris, recap yours.
Yeah, I've got TCU -2 over Baylor. I don't understand that line at all. I guess people must really like Baylor. I've got Oregon State -7.5 on the road against Arizona State. And I've got UNLV -10.5 over Hawaii as the formerly known as the Running Rebels look to trample the Rainbow Warriors to get their 5th win of the season.
All right, and our bet the farm play once again is North Carolina -21.
Brought to you by Miller Lite.
10 picks right there, guys. How about that? You can't beat that with a stick, as the kids say.
10 picks for the price of 0.
That's right. That's right. So hopefully we've got some winners out there. If we have 6 winners, that'd be a fantastic week, but we're shooting for way more than that as I overtake Scott this week in our year-long competition. And Chris, we'll see you next week. Once again, don't forget you can get Chris and I's picks, $25, all of our football picks starting today through the weekend. Check that special deal out. Just head over to where our video is there at the Winners and Wonders YouTube channel, where we have the our weekly Once Upon a Time in Las Vegas. The link will get you right there. And Chris will be back on the airwaves a week from Saturday, the 26th, 2 days after Thanksgiving. He'll be so bloated on tryptophan and turkey. He'll probably fall asleep about halfway through the show, but he'll be there doing
Might
his
fall
thing,
asleep before the show starts.
talking about college football, talking about college basketball, big Saturday card. He's only got like 200 games to go through, so he needs a little time to get ready for that. So, as always, I'm your host, Scott Steen. That's Scott Reichel. Hang on. All right, thank you. I have a sneeze button, and that once again is the king of all parlays, Chris King. We do it every week as we head back to school. Appreciate you guys joining us as always. Don't forget to check us out all of our various places. Twitter, while it still exists, the Reichel Radio. Betting Royalty is Chris King. I am the Steamroller. So as long as Twitter's still there, we'll still be there. You guys have a great weekend. Good luck on all your plays. We'll do it again next week. Fired up on Friday with me and Scott and Chris. That's the big announcement. We're going to do show Wednesday. We are going to do the show Wednesday instead of Friday. So we want to make sure we have an opportunity to get all the Friday games in there and everything like that.
We got Thanksgiving plans.
Yeah, we got big Thanksgiving plans. So we'll be doing Wednesday as once again, the 3 of us will head back to school. You guys take care. We'll see you then.